In this podcast, we will be going over Viola Desmond, who she was, and how she affected Canadian history.
So, who is she? What did she do?
Viola Desmond, she was a Canadian businesswoman. She was born in Halifax, Nova Scotia on July 19th of 1914. She was trained to become a teacher, but then when she got married to her husband Jack, Jack was a barber, so her and her husband then made a combined barber and beauty parlor together. And through this business that they opened up, they gained a lot of wealth and they became successful people who had a successful business.
Alright, well, why is she so important?
Well, Viola was a black woman in 1946. In 1946, racism was still very, very like a huge problem, and segregation was still a thing during this time. Viola, what triggered the event that we're going to talk about is when Viola, since she was so successful in Halifax with her business, she wanted to expand the business across the province. And then so she traveled to New Glasgow to start a new branch of her beauty parlor and barber shop. While she was there, the car that she was driving was having troubles and it broke down a little bit. So while she was going to get it fixed, she decided to go to a movie theater to enjoy a movie. And like I said before, Viola wasn't a poor woman. She had a lot of money on her. So when she went to go watch the movie, she went to go purchase a floor ticket, which is closer to the
Mm-hmm.
screen. But the person selling her the tickets could only sell her a balcony seat because she was a black person. So she just bought the balcony ticket, but then went to go sit on the floor since she couldn't really see as good from the balcony seat, and she could
Mm-hmm.
afford the floor ticket. But since they made her buy the balcony ticket, she just sat on the floor anyways.
Yeah.
Um, People didn't like this. People always had a problem with it. It's kind of like the Rosa Parks situation, where Rosa Parks didn't give up her seat on the bus.
Right.
Viola did not give up her seat in the movie theater, and she was asked to leave, but she refused to
Mm-hmm.
leave since she was like, okay, it's just a balcony or floor ticket. There's not much of a difference. Just let me watch my movie. I paid for this. And she was dragged out by force, and she injured her hip due to this.
Jeez.
And then she was brought to the police station, and she was held overnight in a prison cell. But the funny thing is, she kept her composure, and she like kind of stayed like classy how she is. She sat up straight the whole time, and she had her white gloves on. And during that time, white gloves were a sign of class and
Mm-hmm.
high prestige. And because of her, like sitting on the floor and paying for the balcony ticket, she was charged with defrauding the government due to the 1 cent tax difference on
Jeez.
the on the ticket. And when she was released, she paid a $20 fine due to this. And this is 1914. May I remind you, $20 was a whole lot more than it is now.
Yeah.
Viola, surprisingly, most people would have just kind of like, okay, well, I was racist, and I'm just gonna have to go live on with my life. But no, Viola was different. She went to court to fight against this because she did not want to have to be charged with defrauding the provincial government. And she actually did state too that this whole situation was not about the tax difference at all. It was just about her skin color.
Mm-hmm.
She did end up losing her case because she was an of it and like she was charged,
Yeah.
and that charge stayed, that criminal record was there for years. And altogether she was charged $26 due to the fine and the court charges.
Mm-hmm.
And according to the Bank of Canada, actually, this was the first time that a black woman legally challenged racial segregation in Canadian history. So she did pioneer the fight against black and white, the division between black and whites in our
Uh-huh.
country. So fast forward a few more years after this whole situation happened, she was recognized later on for what she did for the country and what she did for the blacks. And it was on April 15th of 2010 that she was pardoned for her charges, which is I mean, better late than never, but this was 64 years after the event happened and
Yeah.
was 45 years after her death, since she did evidently die in 1965.
Yeah.
So this is so yeah. Unfortunately, like, she did not live to see the day that like she was recognized for her efforts, but eventually it should do something for her country.
So
This was also the first time. Sorry.
um was the segregation in theaters ended? Because I know as a result of the bus boycott in Montgomery due to Rosa Parks,
Mm-hmm.
it was ended.
Mm-hmm.
Blacks would be able to sit anywhere they want on a bus. Was it the case with the theater? Did her going to court
Unfortunately,
solve anything?
unfortunately, no. There wasn't. There, like, if you look on the internet, there's nothing about what happened immediately after the event, since, like, I guess nothing happened after the event was significant. The only thing you can really find is her going to court, but that's about it. But with her getting her charges dropped 64 years later, this was the first time that a free pardon was granted posthumously in Canada. And actually, it was also recently announced that she will be on the Canadian $10 bill, which is not making her not making her only the first woman, but the first black person on Canadian currency. Since no other Canadian woman is on currency, the only other woman on currency right now is the Queen of England.
Yeah.
And she also will be replacing Sir John A. Macdonald's spot on the $10 bill. I'm not sure if he's going to be moved to the $5 bill or not, but that's not something we're talking about right now. But when it was revealed that she was going to be on the $10 bill, her sister was actually there at the ceremony. She was 89 at the time, so she was still going strong. Her name was Wanda Robson, and she had this to say at the ceremony, that it's a really big day to have my big sister on a banknote. So throughout her struggles and throughout her fight, it was eventually recognized, and now she's going to be permanently cemented into history with her face being on the $10 bill. So that's why she's so important. She stood up for not only, I think, black people, but just people of color in general. She took this to court. She tried to fight against it as much as she could. Eventually, she did lose her court case and everything, but in the end, we're here in 2017. She's going to be on the $10 bill. I'm pretty sure she's going to be on the $10 bill in 2018.
Yeah, I have another question. So after her court case, did she continue doing civil rights activism, or did she cease?
There's nothing I can find on that. I'm pretty sure she just went back to running her business and stuff.
Oh, okay.
She could, yeah, I'm pretty sure she went back to her business. She could have actually done more about that, since it is recognized now.
Mm-hmm.
But it did go, like, this case did become famous when it happened, so that's why it's still being recognized today.
Mm-hmm.
But there is nothing really much on her doing much civil rights activism after this, since she did have a business to run, and I don't know if she did expand her beauty parlor or not, but she did make a huge difference with her fighting against the charges and the racism that she faced.
So was there like one particular event that ended segregation in Canada, or was it just multiple events?
It was multiple events. I'm pretty sure Canada did end segregation before America, but I'm not too sure on that, since we're talking mostly about Viola Desmond and not on racial segregation as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Viola Desmond, since she was one of the people on the $10 bill, she probably did play a big role in stopping the segregation of black and whites and people of color.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's all I really have to say about the whole situation and the whole thing. She was actually featured on a stamp too in 2012, like an official Canadian stamp.
Yeah.
and I can't remember when it was in 2016 where she was actually featured in this famous history kind of ordeal called Heritage Minutes, where they make a minute video about a significant figure in Canadian
Mm-hmm.
history. So she was featured in that in 2016, and she was featured on a Canadian stamp in 2012. So she did make a huge difference in her
Yeah.
life. So, yeah, that's her lasting legacy.
Yep. Well, it's nice talking.
Okay.